Hello and welcome to BarbWire Strategy. My name is Colonel Jim Medlove. This is part 2 of episode 5 because I thought on the last one that I was going to be able to escape just doing one 15-minute video, and I kind of knew this wasn't going to happen because when you cover logistics or when you cover any subject in a wood shop, usually it takes a long time to explain them, and I ended up with a lot more than I thought I was going to have, so I had to split it into 2 shows. So here we are in the second show. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy it. This will be the last bit part of episode 5, which completes my original plan of doing 1 through 5 on my wood shop, the collapse of my ceiling, putting up the steel ceiling, and then adding paint and lights, and now logistics. So here we are, and it's been a long 6 weeks putting this whole thing together. So let's go into the shop right now and take a look at the rest of what I had to say about the logistics of where you should place your machinery and your tools in your wood shop. There's certain things in a wood shop that are a must. A wood shop table, an air compressor is another one. You cannot operate, in my opinion, a decent wood shop without a really good, robust air compressor. I've seen a lot of wood shops with little dinky ones that you can carry in your car and stuff. And yeah, if that's all you can afford, if that's all you have room for, yeah, I guess. But I mean, ideally what you want is something my size or larger. And that is the larger capacity air compressors. You're going to use them mainly as you want to be able to blow off your machinery, blow out the teeth of your saws so that you can get the wood out so you can see clearly what you're doing. And also, it's extremely helpful, especially in sanding and finishing, to be able to blow out all of your sanding. So when I'm sanding all the way from 80 to 400 in different grades, I blow with the air compressor because it puts that wood under such high pressure. It blows all of those microscopic sand particles out. And also, it helps to clean your sandpaper too. I mean, you could take your sandpaper. Your sandpaper will last 10 times as long if you blow it out with an air compressor. Another important tool these tools are not necessarily wood tools, they're related wood tools, and that is a shop vac, a large industrial type shop vac. I use it not just in my shop, but just the other night, we broke a high tempered glass casserole dish in the kitchen, and it shattered like a grenade, went everywhere, up on the cabinets, up on the shelves, in places that I didn't even know I had in my kitchen. I took that shop vac in there and I vacuumed up every single morsel of glass. Another thing you need for your shop is a fan. You need a shop fan. I've got a very large shop fan, makes a lot of noise, does draw a lot of electricity, and the only reason I mention that is back to the electricity problem in that I've got one outlet, and so that 110 outlet with its 30 amp breaker pops just as regular as the sun rises and falls. So I have to be careful of how many machines I run at a time because of the crappy electrical system in here due to the idiot architect that built this house, which was not me. Okay, right here, I'm just gonna run through the tools on this wall. There you have the bandsaw, and then there you have a jigsaw. Over here, you've got a belt sander with a disc sander attached to it. And right there, you got a grinder with a drill press behind it. And then on the other side of that, you've got an oscillating sander. Right here, you have the oscillating sander. Right here, you've got a grinder. And here, you've got a belt sander with a disc sander on the other side. And then over here on these shelves, this is where I keep the pallets. All of these boxes, these gun cases are not guns, sadly to say. They are particles of wood. They are finished particles of wood, of exotic wood, which hold the pallets. And I found that the gun cases are the very best thing if you want to keep your exotic woods that are finished in perfect shape and keep them dry and out of the weather and also damage-free from dropping and breaking and getting dents in them and scars and scrapes. These gun cases do an excellent job. I've got one Pelican case. The rest of these are made by Apache, and Apache has a great price on them. You can get them over there at Harbor Freight. Okay, right here you see the other workbench. That one, again, attaches directly to my other workbench on the other side of the garage that I showed you earlier. And then up here I've got a litany of things on shelves. These are all Alpha shelves, all tools, sandpaper, different devices. Going back over here to the wood shop table, then I've got an old kitchen cabinet that was in my grandmother's house, very dear to me, and it's from the 1920s. or early 1930s. And it's very useful to keep a lot of objects in. I do need to put it on rollers though, because it's quite heavy to move around. And right here, you've got a buffer, a high-speed buffer. And yes, I do use that a lot on finished products. The left side of it is probably the side I use the most. That buffing wheel has wool on it. The other one is really for trying to get rust off of tools. And right here, you have a mortiser, and that mortiser will cut a square hole into wood. So that way you can do your tenon and mortise joints. And of course, right there next to it is the toolbox with all kinds of tools, lathing tools, auto mechanic tools, you name it, all kinds of tools. And then coming back over here, you see a close-up. There's my router. That's an Incra router, high precision router with a 5-speed motor on the bottom. Right there, you got the table saw. And then beyond that, you have the drum sander. All essential tools of your wood shop. And of course, you can't forget having a chair. Well, that's pretty much an outline of the wood shop and how I've got it set up. The reason I have these tools set up where they are is because they're all on rollers. So again, a lot of my tools, most of my tools are on rollers, including like if I was going to use on the other side that mortiser, I would roll that out so that I could get all the way around it and readjust it, because you have to readjust it from the rear end. The buffer, I don't need to pull that out. It's quite heavy in itself and it does not have rollers, but all of these have rollers, and I'll pull these out as I need them. If you're not using a machine, which most of the time when you're doing this stuff, you don't have to go from machine to machine to machine to machine. Now, lots of times I'll go from whatever to one of these machines to the belt sander. The belt sander probably gets used more than any other machine. In fact, right now I don't even have a disc on it because the last disc I had flew off across the garage. Mainly I use the belt sander itself, and it's probably one of the most used items in the shop. Overall, what you need is you need the tools and all of the implements that you use, your measuring tools, your sandpaper, your bits, all of that needs to be accessible and where you can get it, so it needs to be stationary. But any machine that can be put on wheels and made mobile, you can roll that thing out, you can put it under the lights, set it up, because you're usually gonna work on that machine for quite some time on a particular project. Another important tool that I have that's not necessarily a woodworking tool, and that is my alpha shelves. Now, I've mentioned this in my painting and lighting video, but I can't stress to you enough about how important these alpha shelves are to me. Now, a brief word about the alpha shelves. The Container Store is one of those companies that I buy from, but I'm always not completely pleased with. It partly has to do with their attitudes sometimes. They're a little hoity, and they really, I've never met any of them that didn't think that using my alpha shelves to hold wood or tools in the garage was, well, they look down at it. And that's why I say they're a little bit hoity about it. But aside from using the shelving, the metal gray shelving to put supplies on and cans of products, one of the most useful parts of my alpha shelves is the fact that I use it to hold my wood. It makes a fantastic storage facility for your wood, especially if you've got really rare and exotic wood that you want to keep straight and separated. And I can't tell you how often I've appreciated. You can rearrange it any way you want, up or down, or put more space in there. You can do anything. Alpha shelves. I strongly, strongly urge you to purchase and make an investment. And believe me, this is an investment. I'm talking about probably thousands of dollars. But if you can afford them, if you can acquire them, I mean, just buy a few at a time. That's what I've done over the years. Just buy a few at a time, and before long, you'll have everything you need, and it'll be perfectly organized. And the Container Store sells the alpha shelves. A very, very good product. I have a few problems with them, not problems with the shelves, but problems with some of the redesigning that's been done in alpha. But I'm not going to get into that in this video, maybe some future video. But anyway, let's move on. Alpha shelves. Now, another important consideration is electrical needs. I have in my garage, I don't know what genius built my garage, what genius architect designed this house, because it was back in the 1980s, the early 1980s. It was built around 1985. I didn't acquire the house until 2004. So I had nothing to do with the architecture of this house or the placement of electrical plugs. But the genius, and by genius, I'm outright calling him a complete idiot. This idiot that designed my garage, which most of the architects out there that design these homes, these quote unquote custom built homes, are idiots because they really don't tailor it to the true needs of the customer. I have one plug in my garage. One. I have one outlet. Now I have one in the ceiling, and that's for the garage door opener. I showed you that in my lighting video. But I have one wall plug in my garage. One. I keep stressing that one because I have multiple machines. I have multiple needs. And of course, that 110 is on a breaker that if I run two machines at once, now I could run a fan and a machine, but if I run two machines at once, or if I run a dust collector, that's why I don't have a dust collector mainly, but if I run a dust collector and the machine, pops the breaker. In fact, the geniuses that did this wiring and organize this, they put it also on my outside plug. So if I plug in my Christmas lights at Christmas and I want to run my Christmas nights and I want to work in my shop, can't do it. I have to go turn off or unplug my Christmas lights so that I can turn on a machine. Because if I try to run my Christmas lights and my machine at the same time, whichever machine, doesn't matter, then it blows the breaker. If you sneeze too hard on the electricity, it blows the breaker. Now, I realize that I could put in a larger breaker, I could put in more plugs, and I've contemplated that, and that's a whole nother subject. But my main point here is on electricity. If you are one of those unfortunate individuals like I am that only has one plug in the garage, believe me, I'd like to shoot the son of a bitch that put the one plug in my garage. But if you are, then I strongly encourage you to look into investing in putting more plugs. Call an electrician, get them to come out, figure out how you want to do it. Ideally, what you want is you want to plug about every, I'm going to say 8 feet. And ideally in my garage, I'd like to have about five plugs. And I know exactly where I'd put them. I'd put them right there where I could get my machinery to them and plug them in. But bottom line here is electricity is extremely important. If you're not going to spend the money to put in new plugs, or you're going to in the future and you're not going to do it now, then go invest in some extension cords and wire them up around your garage, regardless of what the fire code is. It doesn't matter. I could care less. You go in and you put in the wiring, you put it where you want to put it, and make it work. Another one of my next to the last issue that I want to talk to you about, and that is the fact that the ventilation in the shop is extremely important. Ideally, you'd have an attic fan in your ceiling. Unfortunately, I don't have an attic fan. I guess I could have possibly installed one, but I just wanted to get the ceiling back up. And maybe later on I'll cut a hole for an attic fan. But if you don't have that, one thing that saved me all these years, and that is I have a side door to my garage. I am telling you, if I didn't have a side door to my garage, I'm not sure I would have been able to have a wood shop out there all these years, especially in the hot Texas summers. But having that door in the garage has made all the difference in the world, because I can open that door, I can open the garage door on a hot summer day, and we get a breeze. We get some kind of a breeze. I can set the fan up in front of the door, suck the air in, it goes out the garage door, and so I create some circulation. And you need some circulation because of all the wood dust, which is why they have dust collectors in most shops. I mean, a lot of the Yankees up north that have basements, and they have a wood shop, I've seen a lot of them, and they don't have any ventilation, so they naturally have to have the dust collectors. So if you can arrange it, if you're building a barn, make sure you have plenty of ventilation. Put in a couple of doors. If you're going to build a barn, then put in 2 garage doors on each end and create a complete breezeway. That's all I have to say on that. Well, that pretty much covers everything I had to say on the shop. The last thing I will note, and that is you want to build your idea of a wood shop. Aside from all the logistics, all of the machinery, and wherever you're going to place it, the ideal wood shop produces an environment of creativity. That, to me, is the most important part of a wood shop. And as I said in the first video, you have 2 types of woodworkers, in my opinion. You have woodworkers that just love being woodworkers, and they'll buy a project, they'll adopt a project, lots of times, not always, but simple projects, because they just love getting their hands on the wood, and they love working it and producing whatever the kit or model or whatever it is that they're going to produce. On the other hand, you have the second type, and that's what I am. I'm not really a wood shop guy. I am a designer and creator, and as I said in my first video, the only way to make your designs and creations come to fruition is to get into the shop, roll up your sleeves, and start sawing some wood and sanding. So my main message to you, whichever type you are, create an environment that is conducive to your creative juices to bring out the best designs you can and create something that no one else has created. That's what I've done. Well, that's it, folks. That is the last of what we have to say about logistics and your wood shop and where to place things. I hope you got something out of it. I realize it wasn't as detailed as I could have made it because I can get pretty darn detailed. But on the other hand, this has been a long 6-7 weeks of making films on my wood shop. And it's been 5 episodes, and I'm glad to get it done because now I can move on to other things. In fact, check this out. Just today, I got in the mail from Amazon, which I don't really like, but since they're the monopoly of the day, then that's where we're at. But I got something I ordered for my next film. I'm not going to reveal it now, but in this box is the next film that I'm going to come out with. Now, the next film I do is not going to be political. Instead, it's going to be on Halloween. It's going to be about a book, just like I did Dracula 2 years ago on Halloween. You'll have to wait for the show to find out what it's going to be. Kind of like Congress has to pass it before they find out what's in the bill, as retarded as that is. But speaking of Congress and retardation, we're going to talk a lot about politics. Now, remember, when I do a political show, if I think it's too edgy meaning that the commissars at YouTube might take it down, since they're the new Stasi, or we're living under the Stasi regime. And anyway, what I'll do on the politics is I will put a video up on YouTube saying that if you'll go down below and click on the BitChute film, and you can watch the whole political diatribe and the opinions which I have to deliver to you. So until next time, this is Colonel Jim Ed Love for BarbWire Strategy saying good evening, and I hope you enjoy putting together your wood shop. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.